Welcome to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to more conversations here on the Cattleman's Call podcast. I'm Lane Nordland, and today our conversation is actually being recorded at the conclusion of the 2023 Young Cattlemen's Conference. Over 70 cattlemen and women and industry stakeholders were on the trip this year. It was actually delayed due to COVID. So the last time this occurred was back in 2019, 2023. They were making up for a few years, so over 70 people on the trip. And as we mentioned, stakeholders, producers from all backgrounds, and one of those individuals that we were able to catch up with during this year's event was our friend Paul Dykstra. He is Director of Supply Management and Analysis with Certified Angus Beef brand. And I tell you what, Paul, how have the last 8 days or 9 days been going?
Well, first of all, it has met expectations for being a marathon. No doubt about that. We have kept our wheels moving and kept the wings under us as far as the travel schedule. But I'm really pleased with it. Of course, the stops and the planning was top notch and fulfilled our hopes in that regard with some wonderful educational opportunities to stop at different places throughout the different regions we visited. But for me, one of the highlights, and I think many have said it in years past, it's the networking opportunity for me in this unique year to have 71, I believe, class members rather than the typical 40. So it's almost double your pleasure from the standpoint of the networking and the friends that should hopefully last a lifetime from this class. So it's been that was my hope, and it's really been fulfilled too.
And I've heard from so many of the attendees on just how exciting it was to stop by the CAB kitchen there in Ohio. We just wrapped up a podcast with Jake Fettis and Callie Thorne. Not sure when that one aired. It probably airs before this conversation, but they were just, and Jake's a Red Angus producer,
That's
by the
true.
way.
He is.
But he was just talking about, he was just blown away by just the food products that have been developed and put out there, and just the facility themselves. And I think that's so important for producers to see that aspect of, especially for like a cow-calf producer like myself. I can't wait to get out to Ohio to see this for myself one day. But just to actually see how we can take that product and make it even better, taste better, or make something new out of those cuts as well. I think that's what is so exciting about showing cattle producers more of their own industry.
Yes, and I'm really tickled that we were able to have the class come. This is the first time that the YCC class has visited Certified Angus Beef, and that's our culinary center there, Lane. And of course, I feel like once in a while maybe I'm a little barn blind. I'm awfully proud of what our staff members do, my teammates do, and I feel like we've got some of the absolute best people in the industry. But again, I'm not certain once in a while if I'm barn blind. So having the class come and being able to speak with them after the fact, get their reviews, they convinced me that no, this is a very special experience, worthwhile for cattlemen to come and see what all goes on in that culinary center, and how our folks are educating and training the end user side of our industry every week of the year.
Paul, don't go away. We're going to take a quick sponsor break to learn more about the Feeding Quality Forum. We'll be back with Paul Dykstra next. Certified Angus Beef's Feeding Quality Forum event brings you practical solutions to make market-focused decisions at the ranch and feed yard. This year, you'll meet industry experts and learn the latest information from the global market and evolutions in beef grading to stewardship and ways to improve quality from birth to harvest. So, if you're ready to stop leaving money on the table and start adding more dollars to your pocket, join us for the Feeding Quality Forum on August 22nd and 23rd in Lincoln, Nebraska. Register by August 4th, 2023 at feedingqualityforum.com.
Now, obviously, people are so familiar with the Certified Angus Beef brand. What is your role with CAB? And because CAB is multifaceted. It's not just this beef shows up on the plate at the restaurant or in the grocery store. There's just so much that goes into having that quality that is CAB brand.
Right. And our company is multifaceted as far as the different roles. I'm lucky. I feel like I have the best job in the company. I know there are some others that feel that way about their own roles, but I'm happy to be on the supply side of our business. And in doing so, first of all, Lane, the reason I feel so good about it is not just that Certified Angus Beef is a great employer and company and brand, but I feel like I've chosen the people that I get to deal with for my job every day. And that means cattlemen, because I only work really primarily with the cattleman side of the business. So that's, I feel blessed with that, because I sure think that, cattlemen across this country are typically some of the most outstanding people, and I sure prefer to deal with them. But my role is supply development, and that's a challenging job when you don't own the cattle and you don't own the beef, and that defines our relationship at Certified Angus Beef. We're strictly a marketing company, and marketing that brand and what that brand means to customers. That's what our company really does in order to maintain and improve demand for registered Angus seed stock. But so without owning any product, you've got to convince others to kind of help build your supply chain for you. And of course, we've been fortunate as a brand since the 80s, really, to have a premium in the market for our meat product that trickles back to the ranch through the feed yard and through the packer in that chain. So the fact that there's incentive financially is kind of drives more folks to raise cattle that fit our specs. So my job is to be here to assist cattlemen, whether that be one-on-one consultation, or more typically it's going to be in just sharing information, public speaking events, meetings, industry trade shows, those kinds of things, and writing a bi-weekly call or article that's called the CAB Insider, Lane, that touches on things that affect the high quality beef and cattle markets. So disseminating information, helping folks understand how to improve their cattle with regard specifically to carcass traits, so that we can get a higher share of those black-hided Angus type cattle accepted into our brand.
I love seeing the CAB barn murals that so many have. I was up at Clinton Lori Swanson's at Shipwheel Cattle Company a few weeks ago, and I just love seeing that. And I tell you what, I love their cattle up there, Shipwheel. They have some dang good Angus cattle up there, and it's great to see. And they're cowboy cattle up there too. They live in the terrain, but I just think it's cool to see those murals, because they are murals. It's not just we're going to put a logo up here. Getting on a little aside, I just think it's cool to see those CAB logos on the barns.
Undoubtedly, it kind of gives me extra pride in the company and the brand, because honestly, if I were asked if I would want another company's logo on my barn, that'd probably give me pause. Okay. But instead, we've got purebred Angus breeders and commercial cattlemen across the country that are kind of standing in line to see if they can have a chance to get that logo on a barn. So it's been a fun campaign, and frankly, I'm kind of amazed at how well it's been accepted by ranchers.
Now, also living back there in Nebraska, you also run cattle as well.
Sure, yeah. Well, guys got to have a hobby. And might as well have one that'll help you lose money once in a while.
Exactly.
So,
that's what I do.
Yeah. I am definitely in a small way in the cow-calf business, and I have a partner as far as management is concerned on that, and bought some heifers to breed this spring, like a lot of folks, thinking that perhaps there'd be a little replacement female value coming down the pike real soon. So that's keeps me busy and gets me out of the house and out in nature. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing what that market does. I think we're going to see an outstanding bred cow market this fall, and that's scary though too for the young guys trying to get into the business as well. But you gotta love higher cattle prices though.
Well, in general, it's hard to be upset about it, right? When our product is higher, that signals a lot of good things for the future, and the fact that we'll be financially viable. Yeah, no, I think we're already seeing these prices coming through in the bred stock, and certainly in some of these early feeder cattle sales for forward delivery. It's kind of really eye-opening and amazing what we're seeing going on.
So, in the CAB Insider that you publish, what do you hope people take away from when they're looking at that and looking at all the beef data, what the prices are doing? What is your overall goal each time that you go to work on that and share that very insightful market information?
Well, thanks for describing it that way, Lane. But first of all, the initial page, the front page is always going to be a market update piece. And you can imagine the elements that are in that. And we talk about primarily the fed cattle market. We might mention something about feeder cattle or bred stock once in a while, but it's not meant to be an entire market analysis, but primarily a fed cattle trend, supply trend kind of a piece there. But more importantly, page two is typically going to be a new headline every time and a topic that is hopefully relevant to the production of high quality beef and beef that will not only meet but exceed consumer desires from a marbling perspective and meeting some specifications like ours for certified Angus beef. But I want to help educate producers, and I say that without trying to be condescending. I want every rancher across the country or farmer that's raising a cow and raising a calf crop to understand just what the proposition is for those cattle. If they're selling feeder cattle into the market, maybe they're not retaining ownership, maybe they are, but to help understand the value proposition for those cattle when they are hung on a rail in a packing plant. And they don't necessarily have to respond to those messages that are in the market, but at least be informed, because there's an opportunity to make more profit, particularly in the last few years. We've seen it come through in a big way with these price spreads from prime down to certified Angus beef traditional, which is your premium choice CAB brand, down to low choice, down to select. Those price spreads on the wholesale cutouts have widened up. We saw record spreads last fall, and those records are still pretty darn stout, or those spreads are stout this season again. So I just want to help cattlemen understand a little bit more about the end side of the business as far as carcass value, and give them a chance to at least respond with some decisions on their own if they so choose.
It's been kind of exciting watching that cash cattle market, though, over the last few weeks, too. I mean, obviously drought being the key driver in all of this as well. And, the last time we really saw that significant drought was 2012. That's when I was biting, "Oh, Dad, I need to buy more cows. Let me buy more cows." And he goes, "No, you're not going to buy more cows." Probably best advice I ever got, because, I just made more money with the cows I had and didn't have to pay off the loan when the cattle market dropped off a few years later.
For sure.
What, I guess, as you've watched this, obviously the drought is a little different in its spread and its severity. It's really shifted. I still think we're going to be dry up in our area, Northern Plains up and Northwest. But, we're seeing Kansas, Texas, all that region just getting hammered by severe drought. I guess, what are your parallels? What are your thoughts on, obviously we saw some record prices in the wake of that 2012 drought, but we rebuilt the herd pretty fast as well in that wake. What's different? What's the same when we're kind of looking at that last big rally we saw for especially cow-calf producers?
Sure. I think, my memory specific to that 2012 drought may not be as keen as I want to think that it is, but it seems like the one that we're in now, and still kind of reeling from in some areas, it seems like it's kind of a long one in certain regions. And I know, for instance, in your country, Montana, hey, this drought is not yesterday's news. It's last year's news through today. It's been a lasting thing and had a little bit longer lifespan in some areas. And you could talk about California, you could talk about the center of Texas, what have you. Some places have been kind of working with this for a while, or suffering from it. So when I say that, there's been cattle leaving the business for a while, and we've depopulated some cow herds in many regions for a period of time. And what we're seeing now in the last year anyway is, like you said, that very important cow-calf and stocker country of Kansas and Oklahoma and down into the Texas Panhandle, boy, there's a lot of cow numbers in those important areas. So,
And not a lot of wheat this year either.
not really. No, that's what our friends on this tour have been sharing with us as well. So that's what I think is a little bit different. Be interesting to see how we come out of it. There has been lots of relief in the last, in the end of May, first part of June here, particularly in the center of the country. Not all of it, but promising for some cattlemen that maybe they have a chance to raise some grass, hopefully put up some hay. As you said, I think the damage has been done on some of the crops already. It's just been too little too late, but it'd be hard to buy very many bred cows coming up, and think that you're getting a value, because they'll be worth something this fall.
What's been the most surprising thing, drought aside, in the marketplace over the last 2 to 3 years? What are your thoughts on just something that's just surprised you, drought aside?
Honestly, I'm surprised at what we've done with beef prices, and I don't really necessarily say that in a good way, because they're high enough. I think we can all agree. A kind of a logical thinking person can look at these retail beef prices and say, "Wow, that's high enough for most people." And for the most part, though, demand, all things considered, has held in. And of course, we're offering less supply, and that's part of a demand equation, right? But we've got this cutout, a choice cutout of $3 plus, and of course higher than that for certified Angus beef, higher again for prime, etc. The consumer end has held up pretty good at prices that frankly kind of make me want to push back from the meat case once in a while. So I didn't think we'd quite push them this high, because the packers have had a pretty good margin for months. Now today, obviously they're a lot more tight, but what the wholesale value of those carcasses or box beef items has been, I didn't think would have gotten that high and maintained demand.
So again, as we look at this shrinking U.S. cattle herd, just my sidelines commentary, I don't think we'll see that rebuilding occur as fast as it did, in that 2012 to 2015 area there, because when cattle producers want to rebuild, we rebuild fast.
Yeah.
And then that impacts obviously the marketplace as well. But what should producers just be mindful of in their day-to-day decisions? Why is it important, especially for cow-calf producers, to watch the different aspects of the cattle market? I know a lot of producers we watch the futures, we don't play in the futures, we watch that cash market, and then we just sell our calves through the local ring or run them on the video auction. What are some things producers should be mindful of? I guess in every sector of it, but I always focus on the cow-calf because, I'm one of those cow-calf guys. But I guess what are some things that they should think about?
Well, I think it's interesting your point. I agree with you fully. In what could be different about the outcome of this drought is the building back might be a little different. I don't know that if I had to just estimate, I wouldn't guess that we'll build the cow herd back to as large as it was prior to this period of time. Now, maybe not a drastic cut, but given cost in everything we do, it'll probably hinder some from buying any cows back at all. Maybe some folks if they were a dual enterprise, say they're farming and ranching, maybe they've already given up the ranching side of their business due to drought, and they're looking at cost of buying a cow plus the cost to run a cow. They might have kind of thrown their hands in the air and said, "Well, we'll just be a farmer now." And some could have done that. So that's one aspect, and I think that's what brings me to my second point. When you ask what folks should pay attention to, I think cost is the first one. Let's be honest with ourselves about all of our costs, and that doesn't necessarily have much to do with certified Angus beef, but I think it's just good practice for ranchers and cattlemen to say, "Hey, let's sit down and write this stuff on paper rather than just putting our receipts in a box for the tax man at the end of the year," because I've heard estimates that $1,000 is what it costs nowadays to run a cow for the year, and maybe it's upwards of that in some cases. So that tells you then what you need to get for a calf. It's not what it used to be, and it's not $600 anymore. to run a cow. So that's going to give you a new break even on your feeder calf value. And so then you can start to project and say, well, how do we get that? And maybe in some cases, maybe it is an LRP policy for some folks, getting something locked in when things are so good. Now, the market we're in is so bullish that it's hard to say you should lock anything in. But of course, with those LRPs, you've got the upside open. But it's really when the market tends to want to be down that risk management seems a little more fitting for most ranchers. But otherwise, back to maybe a little closer to home in my wheelhouse, I sure think cattlemen always got to be thinking about their product quality, and in doing so, what are the EPDs of the bulls you're buying? Let's keep some pressure on carcass traits. I'm not saying single trait select. I don't ever want to be caught saying something like that. I don't intend for that to be what I put out to the public. But pay attention to marbling. Pay attention to some muscling, red meat yield, and if you can do that and build a better calf, then obviously there's risk management in building a better product that's going to command a premium.
And there obviously drought it's devastating in so many different ways, and all of us have had to reduce our herds, but we're keeping our best cows too a lot of the time.
You bet.
So you're going through there, you're keeping those cows that are going to have, for us, moderate frame cows, good udders, good feet, that raise a good calf. And still, you got to be looking for those good bulls, and the demand for especially the Angus bulls this year, it still remains so strong, even with those lower herd numbers out there. And I know that gets the register guys nervous when it comes to sale time. But we were going to sales where the average was $2,000 more than it was 3 years ago when we were going to these sales, which is great for them. They're raising cattle, maybe they're young guys getting discovered, but you can't. I think that's when people take the opportunity with drought is just improve your herd during the really crappy situations like drought.
Yeah, and we saw that in that decade ago, right? When we built back, we saw the quality of the cow herd increase. So how do we know that happened? Well, we looked at the carcass results and our annual trends. Quality grades came up, and that's what I mean when I say improvement. Now, we all know that there are many other traits that we're also talking about as far as just generally improving. We cull the best cows and replace with better genetics. It's obvious that we're talking about multiple traits. But relative to our product, the quality grade trends moved higher again after that drought because, we replaced some poor cows with some better ones, and the calves, proved up on that genetic trend. So we'll see that happen again, no doubt. An entrenchment of the better cattle and folks pursuing, what the market signals are telling them to do.
We'll be back with Paul Dykstra with Certified Angus Beef, but first, just a reminder about the upcoming Feeding Quality Forum going to be held August 22nd and 23rd. Certified Angus Beef's Feeding Quality Forum event brings you practical solutions to make market-focused decisions at the ranch and feed yard. This year, you'll meet industry experts and learn the latest information from the global market and evolutions in beef grading to stewardship and ways to improve quality from birth to harvest. So, if you're ready to stop leaving money on the table and start adding more dollars to your pocket, join us for the Feeding Quality Forum on August 22nd and 23rd in Lincoln, Nebraska. Register by August 4th, 2023 at feedingqualityforum.com.
Well, again, when we're out there, we're looking at information. How can producers just engage more with CAB and to learn more about your insider updates or just what they can do to just maybe watch the market a little differently or look at their genetic selection a little differently, because it's all about quality. And when a buyer knows you're raising good calves, they might call you up and get in a bid more with another buyer out there. Sure. But I guess what are some of those other just examples or tips you have for producers when it comes to just being a better cattle producer, but also a better businessman as well?
Yep. Appreciate you asking that. It's one of my favorite topics to try to help people from a marketing standpoint. I sure encourage folks to read my newsletter, and hope if it provides value, it'll be additive to some folks to their information bank. But really, what I want additionally is for ranchers, if they don't already have a relationship or a friendship with a cattle feeder, I think that's one of the most beneficial things that a guy can do. And that's not to say that you don't still sell your calves in a competitive market, pursuing that perhaps through an auction or whatever the case might be. It's not about marketing method. It's about knowing someone that could be your customer. And, you gain so much knowledge from just talking to somebody. It's an example of this YCC tour again. I've gained a ton of knowledge just because I didn't know how things worked in a certain region. And I've learned a lot about that. It's the same thing about talking to the guy in another sector of your business, and particularly when he's your customer, or could be. Get to know 2-3 cattle feeders if you can. And, we like to joke in this business about ranchers' vacations typically involve cattle, right? It's an opportunity to maybe go into Kansas or Nebraska or something like that. Doesn't sound really like a great getaway, but it wouldn't hurt to get down there and make a few appointments with some cattle feeders, find out what they need, and if your cattle meet their requirements, then I think it's going to pay for itself as far as that vacation is concerned.
Yep. Well, hey, anything else that CAB is up to? I know your crew goes out on the road quite a bit. I know we'll probably see you on the Montana Angus Tour here in a few months, but I know the Angus Convention's heading to Orlando this fall. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's right. Yeah, we're excited about that.
You going to go see Mickey Mouse and ride the teacups?
I'll probably let that pass this year, Lane, but thanks for the idea.
Well, Paul, I know we have a busy day, and I know you actually, we're both going to try to fly out tonight. This is, when this airs, the smoke invaded the East Coast in the Beltway here from Canada, so we don't even know if we're going to be able to jump on our flights tonight because everything's been delayed, or it's a cluster out there, but...
On a side note, I did not make it home to Montana that night. I was stuck in the Minneapolis airport and didn't get home for another day. Back to the conversation.
I guess what's been your best thing about YCC this week, Paul?
Well, honestly, outside of those networking friendships that I mentioned earlier, I had never been to D.C. before, and it opened up my eyes quite a bit. And I'm not necessarily what I call a young man anymore. Honestly, I'm stretching that term youth in the young cattlemen's.
Oh, no.
But in our industry, I guess I'm still below average, right, as far as the rancher is concerned. But no, what happens here in D.C., it's been enlightening to me to interact with our congressman. It's been kind of fun. I was a little bit apprehensive about it, to be honest, because there's a little bit of navigating that you have to do, obviously, in this environment here in D.C., but learned a lot, and I have a greater appreciation. We don't always appreciate what happens in D.C. from a standpoint of politics, but I have a greater appreciation for what it takes to be a participant in it, and for the folks that are, making their sacrifices, being away from their families to do that.
Very, very true. Well, Paul, it's always great to catch up with you, and hopefully I'll make the Montana tour. I always got a toddler's birthday party or something about that time of the year here for our family, but I'm glad you enjoyed the trip. Glad you made it out to the nation's capital. It truly is something to take in, and it's sometimes I get out here and I'm only in town for 1 or 2 days, and you don't really take in the significance of what this place truly is, because I know it's called a swamp, but it's always great for me. My favorite part, Paul, is when you see these veterans that make it to town on an honor flight or at the memorials, and to see these men and women that fought for our nation, and nothing gets you choked up more when you see these people that fought for our country, had friends die for this country, and they're out there visiting these memorials and visiting the nation's capital. It puts things into perspective than what we see on mainstream TV.
We had the opportunity, Lane, to watch the changing of the guard yesterday at the Arlington National Cemetery, and that one hits you pretty hard to stand and watch that, and it just really instills, reinforces a sense of pride in being an American, and by golly, that's worth doing.
Yep. And it's great to be able to feed this country and help feed the world as well with good beef. And again, Paul Dykstra with Certified Angus Beef brand with us. Thanks for joining us, Paul, and safe travels home.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me here, Lane. Appreciate it.
Well, again, that will do it for today's conversation on the Cattleman's Call podcast. I'm Lane Nordland. If you haven't yet hit subscribe to the podcast, make sure and do so on our platforms that host the Cattleman's Call. I'm Lane Nordland. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with Lane Nordland. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.